In this video, we're going to be talking about the anatomy of a flower. So there are two different parts when it comes to the anatomy of a flower. We have the male part of the flower and the female part of the flower. But before we get into that, we have to look at the outside arrangement of the flower. So obviously, as you can see, we have these things called petals. You can see they're very bright and seem very attractive to our eyes. Just like how it works on our eyes, it also works for insects. Insects find these colors very attractive, so they obviously would come to these colors so the plant can get pollinated. Also, in the outer part, we have the sepal and the receptacle. So we can look at the sepal and receptacle over here better. So you see these lower leaves over here? These smaller leaves help support the flower when the petals are blooming, these outer attractive parts. So the sepals help with protection when the flower is blooming and support the flower in any kind of stress it has, like on weight or something. Also, when it's a bud, it completely closes, and the ones that are closing it are the sepals for protection, obviously. Then we have the receptacle. The receptacle is basically this part of the upper part of the stem that connects to the flower or to the sepals, which then connects to the petals and the flower. So basically, it connects the stem. It's the thickened part of the stem that connects to the flower. So now let's move into a little bit more interior structure. So there's the male part and the female part of the flower. So the male part is called the stamen. The stamen makes up of two different parts, which is known as the filament and the anther. So you can see it better over here. You see these red plants over here. This is the male part. This one over here, this one that's not red but rather pink or orange, is actually the female part. This is called the carpel. It makes up of the stigma, the style, and the ovary. And inside of the ovary, this bottom part. Oh shoot, I broke it. In this bottom part, we have the ovary, which basically makes up a bunch of ovules. As we can see over here, there are some columns that make up of it. So when we connect this thing together, we get the female part of the plant. So the female part is the one that catches the pollen then it gets pollinated from the insects. So this top part over here is known as the stigma. This is where it catches the pollen. And then this little line over here that connects it to the thicker part, also known as the ovary, is called the style. Then this ovary, this bottom part, is made up of a bunch of ovules. If we look at the bird's eye perspective over here, we can see a bunch of knobs. These knobs represent each different ovule. These ovules later turn into seeds, and whenever they get pollinated or the ovules turn into seeds, and the ovary, this entire part, turns into a fruit, which then later it drops to the ground and then a new tree grows up. Next, let's talk about the male part. We can use this one for a better example. Also, so this is the stigma, this is the female part, but all these other parts are the male parts. So we have the filament, this entire tube-like structure that holds the entire stamen together, and on the top we have this anther. This anther is the one that produces the pollen grains. So not only is the insect giving pollen to this part over here, but it's also taking pollen from the male part, giving it to another female part. So basically, the anther is basically nothing but a male gamete, and the ovule is nothing but a female gamete that later becomes into a seed. This anther, because it creates pollen, it's a male gamete, and that male gamete is given to another carpel or another female part of the plant over here in the stigma, and that creates other seeds for other different plants. Another look for ovules. These are the small seeds. If you can see the small seeds, then you know that you found ovules. It's all connected to one ovary, which is the center over here, this thick part at the bottom. This is the anatomy of a flower.